Our session today will focus on the issue of onboarding new users of complex web-based software. This is very often a high-cost item, and many companies would like to make it more efficient and reduce the costs. In our session today, we will show you how new digital adoption technology can do exactly that. And we will look at some concrete examples using a CRM application with scenarios similar to those many companies have. Taking you on this journey today is Darren McPhail. Darren is with our North American partner eLead. They sell, install, and provide training for our digital adoption solution. Darren has experience in a variety of roles during his long career in the software industry, but his main focus is always on the needs of end users. So Darren, welcome, and thanks for being with us today. And let's turn it over to you.
Very happy to be here, and hello from Canada to everyone out there in the webinar audience today. Thanks for taking the time to join us. I think we have some interesting and useful information to present today, so let's jump right in with a brief look at the main points we're going to be talking about. We're going to review the common training methods used in our digital age and their effectiveness on our ability to absorb and retain knowledge. There's pros and cons to each, and we'll demonstrate a new technology used in training a new employee on a typical business application like a CRM system. We'll see how this technology can be leveraged with other applications and use cases for your business. We'll wrap up with summarizing what we've learned and then open up the lines to answer your questions. Sound good? Okay, let's get started. Remember what it was like the last time you had to learn a new application, or roll out a software upgrade with new features, or teach a new hire the ropes? The tools we use may have changed, but the need for training is still essential for a number of reasons. Going digital has added complexity. There's many screens and menus to navigate and specific steps to remember to follow company protocol. We're knowledge workers, handling tons of information. And we use technology not just for productivity, but in some cases to follow unique processes and workflows to meet regulatory compliance. Every company has some sort of training program and budget and use a variety of onboarding methods. You can send them to a classroom for a day or two, show them online help, PDF manuals. I can't remember the last time I read manual on paper. And then pass them to the help desk eventually with an email that they'll struggle to find later. But everybody learns at a different pace. One size does not fit all. Here we have the learning curve for a typical adult. In the beginning, we can only retain so much. Everything's new to us. And the stress of remembering every little step while trying to make a good impression in front of our peers affects our knowledge retention. As time goes on, we forget what we heard in training class. We try to look at online help, but the document's out of date, the screenshots don't match, and some fields are different because the software version's different. We end up down here into what we call the valley of despair. They've missed a step somewhere, and the inevitable happens. They become stuck. Application erosion has happened. They're frustrated, afraid to look unintelligent, and confused what direction to take next. Some will get help, others will stay silent. Either way, both end up costing the company one way or another. A traditional measurement of training is the amount of costs it takes to develop 1 hour of training. But we're now in an environment where learning is not just about how many hours, but the user experience. And these experiences can vary, and the effectiveness on knowledge retention and user adoption need to be considered for true ramp-up time to productivity. Technology has provided learning with more delivery options than ever before. The classroom's still king in spending, but not necessarily effectiveness. There's e-learning, videos, social media tools for collaboration that organizations are discovering in an effort to improve onboarding time at a reduced cost. But as you can see, each has their own pros and cons with a different level of effectiveness. Companies still spend a bulk of their training budget on classrooms, but there's also tremendous overhead costs involved when you're taking people away from their desks to sit in a classroom. And then add the complexity of if you have multiple locations and the time involved for travel, and those hidden costs start to add up. The average annual cost of training an employee every year is over $1,200. And that doesn't include the 33 and a half hours of their salary that you're taking them away from their desks. So even with online courses and IT help desk support, employees are still not as productive as quickly as they could be. And don't forget the cost of the software maintenance that's being paid out every year for all of these business applications, for new features that people just aren't using. And what's worse, we've all done this. Users will seek workarounds and won't use that application because it's too cumbersome to use. So let's recap the main issues. Training retention. Trying to remember what they saw in the classroom or those endless PowerPoints and video tutorials. The adult learning curve has shown that training once is not enough. You need some sort of reinforcement. User acceptance and adoption. The user avoids using the application because it's not intuitive or too many complex steps to remember. Application erosion. The software evolves and changes, new features are getting added, which only adds to the increase in the gaps of knowledge and increase over time. Take a look at Microsoft Office as an example. Look how many times that interface has changed and how frustrating it was to use the new ribbon menu and find features that you were used to using. And of course, the pitfall of cost. You've got your help desk support calls, the indirect labor overhead with all the time that's spent relearning instead of doing their work, and which also result in data input errors because they don't know what they're doing, which all lead to low productivity. Did you know that ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius was an expert on training user acceptance? Confucius expressed his belief in the importance of learning and experience when he wrote, I hear, I forget. I see, I remember. I do, I understand. People learn from experience. But how can they get that experience faster? They can get experience faster by seeing and doing. And this can be done by incorporating a digital adoption technology into the training arsenal. What is digital adoption? It's a technology platform that works with your existing web-based software that provides on-screen visual guidance of how to use an application to complete a certain task, step by step. Essentially, users are learning the application on the fly while they use it, which significantly reduces training time and confusion, making them productive faster. Confucius was wise. People learn from seeing and doing, and that's where using a digital adoption platform like Newired Journeys fills the gap. Let's take a look at the day in the life of a new employee learning a typical business application like a CRM system. We're going to show you how using a digital adoption tool helps augment any training program. In this scenario, the president wants all employees to be able to add and update information in the company CRM system on a regular basis, so their key reports are going to be more accurate. So let's start with the basics. They'll need to learn how to navigate the main screens they're going to be using day to day, how to find their accounts, how to add notes and activities, and also how to add new opportunities. Let's take a look at this new way of training. So here we are in the CRM system. Everything looks normal, and I'm free to look around. But if you notice down here, there's help available. If I get stuck on something and I need a refresher, I can click here and bring up a number of guided procedures. Let's try the quick tour so I can become familiar with where things are. I get a welcome message that shows me what I'm about to learn. I'm going to learn the basics, find accounts, add notes and activities, add new opportunities. So I click Next, and notice that the entire screen grays out and it draws attention to the Home button. It's waiting for me to hover over to this area before it does anything else. And the next pop-up appears. Now it wants me to click on Activities to see my activities. Now it wants me to click on my deals to see opportunities. So as you can see, it's guiding me along of where to go on the screen. Notice this time it's asking me to click on a pull-down list. I want to pause for a second and mention there's many ways that the system will watch how the user interacts with your business application. It will wait for a user to do something, keeping them on track while moving them along step by step. Also notice it's giving me some suggestions of what to pick. This is very useful for people to start building good habits right from the start, and this will reduce data errors. So it's suggesting unread leads, so I'm going to click on my unread leads. Now it's asking me to click on my accounts. So this is where I can see my list of accounts. Notice it draws me attention to the accounts, but a pop-up bounces down here, letting me know that I do have 75 accounts, even though I can see 10. And now it's showing me how I can click more to see more in my view. Oh, that's cool. And now it's showing me to go up here to find my accounts. When I'm done, the system confirms I've completed all the steps and then disappears in the background so the user is free to explore on their own. This is a much faster way to learn because I'm an active participant instead of looking at PowerPoints. I'm learning while I'm doing. So a couple of things to keep in mind. I'm using a trial version of Zoho CRM out on the web. I didn't do any software programming, and I didn't have to integrate with the application either. Yet, I can still guide and oversee how a user interacts with the application that I have no control over. This makes it fast and easy to install and set up. Okay, back to our use case. The president wants to ensure that everyone in the company knows how to add notes and activities. Let's see how Newired Journeys helps the user stay on task without getting lost. So I go down here to click on Help, and I'm going to select Adding Notes and Activities. I'm going to be clicking on my accounts. It wants me to click on Stealway. Notice I can't click on anything else. The entire screen is grayed out. My only option is to click on Stealway. So this helps me not get lost and stay on task. Now it wants me to click on Notes. Again, I can't click on anything else and have an effect. The only thing that's going to work is clicking on Notes. Well, what do I do now? Put my notes here. Had a good meeting. Need to send a quote. Oh, it's reminding me to save the note. That's fine. Right, I better set up a follow-up meeting to send that quote. So I click on my activities, and now I'm going to add a new task over here. Send quote to Bob, type a description. I better get this done by tomorrow. And then I'm going to click on Save. Well, that was easy enough. What's next on my list? Right, opportunities. The president likes his forecast reports. Okay, back down to the Help menu. Let's learn about how I create opportunities. First things first, I better find the account that I'm going to create the opportunity for. All right, I'll click on Woodbine and Tool and Die. Notice I can't click anywhere else. I can only click on Deals. All right, here's all the deals that I'm working on. So now it wants me to click on New Deal. Again, I can't click anywhere else on the screen. Sell more ERP. And it's about $10,000. Close for the end of the month. Let's see, I'll pick a stage. Needs analysis. And I will click Save. Then I'm done. Well, that was easy enough. I just spent 5 minutes learning to do what the president values most without sitting in a classroom. And better yet, I can retain myself anytime and reinforce what I've learned. Here's a use case I'll bet you haven't thought of. Training users that might have a language barrier. You can also use this tool to provide multi-language journeys. Let's take a look at an example here. Parlez-vous français? So here I am. I'm building prompts. How can I help? Just like subtitles in a Hollywood movie. I can click on accounts. And here again, en français, in French, it's telling me to click on activities. So that's another good example. Thank you for speaking my language. People learn faster in their native language. It's a much more friendly first-time experience. I can also search for support if I need help. So let's take a look at what my support options are. Well, I can dial help desk, 1-800 on hold. I can open up a ticket, waitinline.com, or I can ask Dave. You know what? I think I'd be better off using a lot of these journeys. I know what to do. Okay, so let's recap. What did we just see? The person was learning both visually and through firsthand experience at the same time. How likely is it they'll remember what to do next time? Imagine if the steps became more complex. How useful would it be to pull up a guided journey right inside the application so they can retrain themselves on the fly, 24/7, reinforcing what they've learned? Let's recap the key benefits of using a digital platform. It saves time because the user's doing the task while they're learning. It helps with knowledge retention. A guided journey is just a click away if they forget a step. It improves user acceptance and adoption because right from their first impression, they know where to click and what to do instead of trying to figure things out on their own. It helps assure your company processes are followed because they're shown step by step what they're supposed to do. This is very handy for infrequent routines that a user might only have to do occasionally, maybe once a month or once a year, you know, like running your quarterly report or some kind of month-end routine. And it reduces costs because this is a digital assistant. You create the tutorial once, and it's ready for everyone. It's very efficient to roll out for a company that has multiple locations because it sits on your own server. You also save on support because there's going to be fewer calls to help desk or staff interruptions. Digital adoption is not just for your staff. The customer experience is also very important. Do you have a customer-facing application or web portal? Do you have a software product that you let customers try out? First impressions count, even more so with your prospects and customers. Here's an example where Newired Journeys could be used on a banking site. Imagine how you could use Newired for your own applications. Every application has its weakness. Some are hard and some aren't intuitive at all. Customers are more likely to follow on-screen prompts and continue to use a digital adoption tool like Newired Journeys. Without it, they end up calling support or simply give up. The cost of adding a guided walkthrough tutorial is minimal compared to the cost of changing the interface or business logic of an application. Newired Journeys gets users using your software sooner, and helps them become productive faster. Why? Because they feel more confident and have a better first-time experience because they always know what to do. Think about all of the applications used by different departments, from HR to marketing, product management to IT support. The use cases and opportunity for cost savings are endless. Newired Journeys improves your return on investment of your initial training, reduces time to gain experience, and ensures optimal user productivity and compliance. So what did we learn today? We learned there's several ways to train staff, each with their own cost and effectiveness. Classroom training is widely used, but also the most costly. Adult learning shows that we can only retain so much knowledge the first time we learn something, and that additional support is required to combat application erosion. That additional support, or lack of, is an afterthought in most companies, which impact hidden costs, like data errors. The user experience is also key to people's willingness to use the new application and follow the company's process and protocol. People learn best by seeing and doing. Using a digital adoption platform like Newired Journeys provides guided walkthrough tutorials with on-screen prompts telling users where to click, what to type, helping user gain experience faster. They can reteach themselves anytime at the click of a button. As a result, your support costs go down and productivity and user acceptance goes up more quickly. Applications can be internal for employees or external for your customers, as long as they're web-based. Using a digital adoption platform can also help improve your customers' experience using your software products or website. They'll have a better first impression when they know what to do. Now, let's take a look at some of the questions that's been asked. Lucia, what do we have?
Why is this kind of solution better than online help?
Well, you have to keep in mind that software documentation was created in mind with one size fits all, particularly for large and large and complex business apps like SAP and Excel. The apps tend to be highly configurable, but finding the information for what seems to be a simple use case at the time can be time consuming and frustrating. For example, imagine looking at online help to find out how to create a report. Sure, it can show you the basics of adding fields and maybe some formatting, but it's not going to tell you exactly how to create your company quarterly sales report. The online help as well is also generic. It doesn't tell you the reasons why employees should follow certain steps that your company has come up with. Newired Journeys gives you visual cues of where to click, where to input data, what kind of data, and it's particularly useful in applications that are poorly designed user interface or complex steps.
And how long does it take to install and set up?
Well, installing the server and editor can be done in less than an hour. And the time for creating journeys itself simply depends on the number of steps you want and the number of topics that you want to cover. Just to give you an example, I created a standard procedure. There's about 10 steps for a journey, and I could create it and publish it in less than 15 minutes.
Will it work with all of the software application we use in our company?
The short answer is if your application can be accessed with a web browser, then Newired Journey should work for you. Any web-based application will work whether it's on your server or out on the World Wide Web.
Unfortunately, we are out of time for this session, but we will follow up any other questions by email. Before we stop, Darwin, tell us a little about your company.
Sure. eLead is the North American distributor of Newired Journeys. We provide installation, training, and consulting services. If you want to learn more, here's some suggested next steps. You can check out the Newired site for more use cases and white papers, or you can check out our site, eLead, to learn more about our services or try out the software, or simply contact me if you have any questions. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you learned something useful.
Thank you, Darwin, for a very informative session, and thank you everyone for joining us. We hope to see you on another session sometime. And this concludes our session for today.